Hey everybody, Kel Brooks with my other two great co-hosts. Yes, Rebecca. Are you there, Rebecca Boyd?
I am
Yeah.
here. So excited to be here.
And Chris Cloud. Hey Chris, wow man, how you doing?
It's a long time making. Glad to be here.
Thank you all for watching and supporting.
I am just a big patriot and lover of freedom. And
I'm coming to you guys from what I call the front line of the heartland.
Hey everybody, welcome back. This is the On Fire Show with Daryl McKell Brooks, and I have Rebecca. Rebecca, how you doing? Can we hear you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Oh, okay, Rebecca Boyd. I'm doing great. I am. This is our. I think this the first show of the year. Right?
Yeah. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How was your New Year?
It was good. It was kind of quiet this year, which was nice. It was just easygoing and peaceful. How about you?
Yeah, I was in Atlanta. I was on the train. I did the gun show, and that same day the gun show was over. That Sunday, I was on the train. I took the train in from from Virginia, and I went straight to Atlanta, Manassas.
Wow.
Manassas.
Do you have a good time?
I had a nice time. You know, I get acclimated into Atlanta. Met some buddies of mine. We hung out that night. You know, enjoyed myself. You know, one of the things is that I was so upset is when I went to the underground, and was basically nothing there, and you know, I saw a lot of people that were that surprised me. And a lot of people that had schizophrenic, and it hurt when I saw it was people. But other than that, went to the mall, couldn't find no I went to 5 malls.
Wow.
Yeah, 5 malls. Couldn't find no shoe size, no extra. This is
That's the trouble, being big and tall. Not easy to find your clothes.
Yeah, you know, so the guest on, he's waiting to come on. We have 2 guests.
Awesome.
We have Ron Wilcox, he's the next segment, but we have a good guy. I met him at the gun show, and Mr. Thomas Caldwell, and he is a newspaper reporter. He worked with so many different sources, UPI. He has done numerous as a broadcaster, author, photographer, consultant, narrator, commentator, editor, and producer.
Wow,
So
quite the resume.
I am excited to have him on. I sent you his bio, and you know, I'm waiting for Chris, but I think something happened with difficulties, and but hopefully he'll log back in. But are you there? Waiting for him to
stage here. There I am.
There we go.
There I am. Daryl, good seeing you. I haven't seen you since 2023. It's been that long. And Rebecca, pleasure to make your acquaintance. Where are you hailing from this evening? Where are you located? Pennsylvania. Another Commonwealth. I'm in Virginia, a transplanted Yankee, or I should say a transplanted damn Yankee. That's one word where I come from.
Yeah.
But I've kind of adapted to my surrounds here. Daryl, last I saw you were you were talking about going to Manassas. I've never been on a train at midnight on New Year's. Do they have any weird celebrations or anything? Or was anybody jumping around or pouring champagne out? Yeah, I know. That's what I usually do. I mean,
people, yeah. You know, I had my feet up on the chair and I was like knocked out. I saw a little town. Oh, the
Mm.
conductors like Happy New Year, and and it was so I had fun sleeping
Well,
on the
when
train New Year's Eve. That was an experience for me.
I was
Yeah.
on an airplane once, Trans-Pacific on New Year's Eve, and all the crew were, wearing weird hats and all sorts of fun things. People have asked me, "Did you have a Happy New Year?" I says, "I'll tell you next December
Makes sense.
31st, because this is going to be
Yeah,
an
makes sense.
interesting year, and it's not going to necessarily be interesting intellectually. It'll be interesting in the Chinese curse, kind of.
Yeah,
May you
yeah.
live in interesting times, right?"
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
So tell us about yourself. You
oh,
lived
boring old me, huh?
you lived an exciting
Well,
life because I and talk to you. You've done things all over the country, all over the world.
yeah.
Experience over what? Like over 30 years experience in the media. I wanted to have you on is because I
Well,
want to talk about the media then and now.
and that's something interesting, because I was talking to someone else about this the other day. The word media is actually the plural of medium, which is a communications medium. So they say media is actually a plural word. It's not a noun. Of course, it's become a curse word these days. I do miss the 20th century greatly. I really do. Let me just point something out here. When I was about 19 years old, when I graduated in I'm not a boomer, by the way. I'm a Kennedy baby. I differentiate. If you were born when Kennedy was president, you're a Kennedy baby, because you're not really a boomer. So I make that distinction. Um, the 1970s was great for music, but otherwise it really sucked. We had Jimmy Carter as president, and he hasn't died yet, has he?
It's the peanut guy. Matter of fact,
Oh, him. No, he was worse than that. No. I remember when I was learning
Yeah.
to drive, I had my first job was my mother sending me out to wait in line for gasoline. This is back in ancient
I
time.
remember that.
And when I got out of school, I said, "I'm leaving." So I got a passport and left and started traveling the world and decided to stay. And that was a very good time. The 80s were a great time to be traveling around the world. The United States was respected. I got to do political work. I actually have an autographed picture of Ronald Reagan I didn't pay for.
Awesome.
So, but then I was involved in politics, and I got into media because of a lot of circumstances. I decided to go from the public relations side to the journalism side, which I was better suited for. I worked my way up. I was eventually chief radio correspondent of the Far East for UPI Radio, which no longer exists. And those were exciting times. It was until the later part of the 20th century, you still had journalism in a lot of places, solid quality journalism. Because when I got into the business, I was told, "Mr. Caldwell, you're going to be speaking to 30, 35 million people at a time. You better get it right, because people will be making life decisions based on what you tell them." Huh? You wouldn't get that impression these days, folks, would you?
No fake news.
definitely
No.
not.
Nope.
I'm sorry?
No fake. No fake news.
I just have, it's a bad, I have a hard time hearing you, or I'm sorry about that. You sound a little bit
I guess
muffled.
we're talking about no. Can you hear me?
Yeah, somewhat. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about it. First off, I wanted to cover, it's great to be here, and thank you. You and I, over the years, last couple of years, we've been at the gun show together. And we've gotten to talk about a lot of fun things. Oh, and here in Virginia on Monday is Lobby Day. That's when everyone from the Virginia Citizens Defense League goes to Richmond and tries to keep the gun laws at bay. You might remember Lobby Day 2020, that massive gathering. The year before, it was only a few hundred people. The next year,
Yeah, I
we had
heard about that.
150,000. I was there. That was quite a trip.
Yeah.
Nice. So it's growing then.
Oh, I'm sorry?
So it's growing then. The number.
Well, I don't know. It's an interesting day. It's going to be Monday. It's always on Martin Luther King Day. because that's when the legislature. Well, you know, one of the funny things is, and you're a big Martin Luther King historian, I understand, is I remember that one of the reasons he got pulled into the civil rights movement was because he was turned down for a gun permit. It's not generally known, but Martin Luther King was a real gun guy. He had a pretty good selection of weapons. He was into that, and so we always kind of thought there was an interesting synergy there. His birthday, we talk about freedom. Kind of worked. So
there was a story. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now it's better. Now you got it. Now.
Okay, now it's better. Coming up, I had did the Selma Montgomery March, and that was in 2006, and there were people discussing about was Martin Luther King. He believed in nonviolence, but he did believe in nonviolence. That was a strategy to try to get his gun license, and he had guns. He had the deacons of the fence that had guns protecting him. So, this theory that he didn't believe in guns, and he did believe in guns because they tried to kill his family. So that was a theory that the left came up with, that he was just a pacifist, and he wasn't.
No. In fact, there was a story I remember reading where somebody went to his home and sat down on the sofa and ended up, but was sitting on a very large revolver, and they jumped right up on it. Or something.
Yeah.
But no, wouldn't it be interesting to picture of him with a bill cap and a target? Hey, I got a good score today. Well, I mean, back in the day, I mean, things have changed a lot, not just in journalism, but in, back in the day, if your gun was broken, you'd send your 10-year-old with it down to the gun shop to get it fixed. Here, come back. I mean, yeah, things have changed a great deal. High schools, we used to have gun clubs. The Washington Liberty, it used to be Washington Lee High School in Arlington, not too far from where I am here in the Beltway. They had a gun range in the basement there. I've never seen it, but it's still there. So we used to have rifle, we had rifle practice when we had rifle teams not that long ago. I think they shut it down in the 90s.
But there were less school shootings then too.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, there was a rifle rack in the guidance counselor's office for those that went hunting.
A rifle rack in a guidance counselor's office like that.
Why would because who wants to bring their rifle to class with them? You want to hear something even crazier? In high school, I had a teacher. I think his name was Shay. I don't know. He's probably long dead by now, like most of them are. But he was a real Kennedy assassination nut, really. And if you worked at UPI, you knew people. I don't want to get into the Kennedy assassination, but that was something that was drilled into us because that was for training. Because UPI, we did that real well. But he actually, one of the students had a Manicure Carcano of the same model. And with the principal's permission, he brought it to class. And we all got to see if we could beat Oswald's score. I'm not joking. It was like, this was the 70s. This was the 70s.
Back in the good old days.
Yeah, nobody got hurt. Nobody got hurt, and but anyways, journalism. This is what I was talking to. Daryl, and he was saying, well, where's it been? Where'd it go wrong? And what can we do to fix it? Maybe we can do something, or at least try.
You can get rid of the fake news.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting when I don't own a TV. I've given up on it. I think no one should own a TV really, unless they're, being punished. But the thing is that news used to be a very noble profession. Journalism was indeed writing a journal and sending the journal back to headquarters. There's a difference between a reporter and a correspondent. A reporter goes through an editing process. A correspondent is taken at his words. I worked up to correspondent where when I was doing radio, if there was something big happening, I called up and said, put me on now. It would be done with complete trust. And that took you had to really have almost a religious calling to doing that. Where everything went wrong is when news became an expense and started to become an income source. You see, back in the day, especially broadcast news. Now, if you look at like the 1960s, 1970s, on YouTube, there's plenty of stuff. Like most people never look at all of Robert Kennedy's speech the night he was shot. You should. It's fascinating. It actually is. And just if you do a search on, I think it's RFK Ambassador, you might find it. But the thing is that in order to get your broadcasting license from the FCC as a network or as a station, you had to provide certain public services, including news and information. Now, when Walter Cronkite was around, the CBS Evening News or the NBC Evening News or the ABC Evening News, the big three networks at the time, their news was 30 minutes. It was not any longer than that. It was in the evening once.
Do you remember Walter Cronkite when his last, before he got off the air, what did he say?
I don't remember exactly what he said.
I do.
Tell me about it. Tell me.
Yeah, I'd like to know.
And that's the way it is.
He said that every night.
Every night.
During the hostage crisis, he always counted the days that our people were being held by the Iranians, which was a real interesting thing. But he was just one of many. There were a lot of good newsmen back then. And I got to work with some of them when they were in their later years. I got to learn from some of them. I got to learn from people that were in Dallas when Kennedy was hit. And it's interesting when you get firsthand information. And I met, some of the astronauts and that were on the moon. Isn't it shocking people don't believe that we went to the moon? Just I was a kid, we were going to other planets, and it's just But what everything started to go bad was when news became a business, and that's when CNN came around. That's when now initially CNN was pretty good. Initially,
Clinton News Network.
It was, but then whatever. Let me give you one. There's a lot of CNN stories I have working in when they were in the, when I was in the press corps. And so a lot of them I'm not going to talk about just because I'd have to document them and I have to get your facts provable. But I will testify one thing is one of the things I didn't like was back in the 90s when I was in the Far East and based in Tokyo. And we had a lot of things going on in Tokyo. 1995 was a year we had the Kobe earthquake. We had the gassing of the subway attack. We had, I was in the center of covering that story. The 50th anniversary of the end of World War II. I was in Hiroshima for the 50th anniversary. That was an interesting story to cover. But the thing that I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. But the thing that we had back then was that I'm sorry, I got off my track.
No, it's okay. I have a question for you.
Go ahead. Yes, she has a question.
I just asked a question because CNN. I'm sorry. The one thing I didn't like about them, and I'll tell them this, is on the cameramen, and news cameramen are kind of weird. I don't know if you ever dealt with them. I think it's because there's a radioactive tube next to their head or something. But on the back of their battery pack was a sticker that said CNN, the world's most important news network. For 95, and I hated that because that wasn't being seen by the people at home. That was being stuck in our faces, and we really didn't like it. Yeah. That was just being arrogant, and it was when you're in the International Press Corps, there's a sort of a team camaraderie. You work together, in a way. I mean, you might, you're in a situation, especially a situation that's important. Like when Robert Kennedy was assassinated, if you watch the whole video, the CBS coverage, you'll see how the different news people were working together to cover a story that needed to be covered. But I mean, that's when they became, a bit arrogant, and then it really started to turn, and then it became a business. Instead of an expense, it turned into a profit center, and then they had to make up news. They had to, what we call feed the goat. You ever heard that term?
Yes.
I have, yes.
Okay, and the goat got a lot bigger and a lot hungrier, and that's why in the summertime you always find a lot of weird stories that people are coming up with. Anyways, you have a question, Rebecca.
Yeah, so like even before networks like CNN, there were news networks that obviously had sponsors and paid commercials, and it was still like a business. So what exactly was the difference? Like when CNN came along, was it just much bigger money and much bigger sponsors? Is that
It
what
was the
it
cable. It was cable became a completely different business model because the advertising you saw like on the major news networks was for everything. I mean,
Right.
you would do that, and the news was extremely had to be very objective. I've been in newsrooms where sometimes when I was younger, we almost went to blows over the quality of a story. We
Wow.
took it almost sometimes.
Yeah.
If there was
Yeah.
never have alcohol in a newsroom. I'll tell you that would be it.
We got to go to a station break. You got to pay for all this.
Oh.
So, okay, so we'll be right back. We got about 3 good commercials that we have to play, and we'll be right back. This is the On Fire Show. I am Daryl McKell Brooks and Rebecca Boyd, and we're interviewing Thomas Michael Caldwell. We'll be right back.
Flip Ammo is your trusted source of high-quality ammunition. We're passionate about shooting and offer a wide range of products from bulk ammo to hard-to-find rounds, all at competitive prices. You can choose from local pickup or fast daily shipping. We are the fastest shippers in the industry. We strategically developed our space next to the UPS shipping center and can ship most orders same day till 7 p.m. Our dedicated customer service team is always available for any questions or product recommendations. Experience the passion, expertise, and exceptional service that sets us apart. Flip Ammo, your trusted source for high-quality ammunition.
Nation's Gun Show at Dulles Expo in Chantilly, Virginia this weekend. 1,300 tables, over 2 miles of guns, knives, and accessories. Everything you need for the shooting, sports, and self-defense. Meet Crispy Avila at the EC Defense booth. Concealed handgun classes. The Nation's Gun Show at Dulles Expo. Friday 3 to 8, Saturday 9 to 5, Sunday 10 to 5. Advanced tickets, coupons, and more info at thenationsgunshow.com. That's thenationsgunshow.com.
All right, we're back. I love that beat. That's that beat, from Gangster. That's that gangster beat for the Trump store.
The Trump shop?
Catchy.
Yeah, the Trump shop. Yeah. So
Yeah,
the Nation's Gun Show is coming up February 3rd, and in Chantilly. And, I know I'll see you there. And I talked to Annette Elliott. She is planning on coming on the show soon, Rebecca. And she said, Daryl,
Awesome.
tell Rebecca I will be on. I'll be coming on the show. So
Good.
that's the exciting part, and we're going to be doing some organizing and doing a few things, and so I am, one of the things about the media, I wanted to ask you, Mr. Caldwell, is, we're talking about fake news, and was there when you in the '60s, and with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and the movements and what happened to Martin Luther King, with the media attacking him. And we see now with former President Trump, how the media was when they were attacking him. And a lot of the political presidents that were running for office or were in office. Was there any sort of considered fake news?
Well,
and especially in the 60s and 70s. There had to be an area where, they had people in the media that was not telling the truth at all.
Well, yeah. But here's the thing. If now I, was a child in the 60s and I grew up in the 70s, but I was still pretty young. My earliest, most vivid memory was Robert Kennedy's assassination. That was about the age where you really got that. But here's the thing. Back then, people of all backgrounds, of all ethnicities, all races, all cultures, all ages were far more educated. They were far more well-read. Just read what Malcolm X was saying. I mean, really. Or the night that Martin Luther King was killed, one of the more interesting speeches that Robert Kennedy made was at that crowd in Indianapolis.
Yeah,
and that was completely off the cuff. He quoted a Greek philosopher that most people never heard of, right out of memory. People were better trained back then. You couldn't really pull the wool over their eyes too easily. Okay, people have been dumbed down.
Yes.
Okay. People have been dumbed down so much over the last half century plus. So it's easier if people aren't very well read or well thought up, like running across people that think the earth is flat.
Yeah.
Think about that. I've met people, they believe the earth is flat. And I mean, I've flown around the world. I've been over the North Pole. I don't think that all the pilots are in on a conspiracy. That we didn't land on the moon or who knows what.
Why is that? Why is that?
Okay, good question. Because of the way it was done by the Marxist elements in this country, is people were no longer taught to think. They were taught to feel. Now, take anything in history, say, what do you think about the history of slavery? Okay, that's an intellectual question. Now, history of slavery goes back to the beginning. It was a form of, you can. It's an intellectual thing. Okay, it's something you can remove yourself from. But then you say, how do you feel about slavery? And it's a totally different thing you're going to be dealing with. So when people like Trump, he said, what do you think about Trump? And back in the day, well, I think his policies, this, I don't like his style, blah, blah. You'd be dealing with facts. You'd be dealing with non-emotion. But that's not the way it goes these days, is it? How do you feel about Trump?
Would you say the media plays off of that?
Oh, yeah. They're into getting people to feel. When I was in the 5th grade was when I took my first journalism class, and we were never allowed to editorialize, which means comment on what you're reporting. Look at any evening news. They're saying, well, this station, we hope this, that. No, you're not supposed to hope anything. You're there to convey the information. The purpose of the Fourth Estate was to inform the American people, John Q. Public, and his wife and his kid, of what's going on so that they can contribute they could participate in the system. The government. By the way, we were never a democracy. I don't like to use the word democracy because we're a federated
republic.
We're a republic. Yeah, we're a
I tell people that when you pledge allegiance to the flag, it says pledge allegiance to the republic. It doesn't say democracy. What do you get? Democracy.
No,
democracy is a traditionally not a very good system of government. It's when the mob rules. And the founding fathers were very smart and very well versed in that. But this is what I mean. It's just twisting words. It's twisting meaning, getting people to feel about something. You don't want to feel. You want to think. We have enough emotion as it is. So that's where it all went. Now, one of the more, even look at how it went. I don't know how much of a fan of Thomas Sowell you are.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Thomas Caldwell.
I would. I don't think that guy's written a bad book ever. And he really knows his stuff. And he talked I think one of the best high schools in the United States was Dunbar High. I think Dunbar High School in Washington D.C. It was all African American, and it was all they had kids 8 years old speaking Latin. I mean, we were a much more educated country. So when people are educated, when people read books for content, not watch cheap video. Not watch short little videos. When people get into reading books. And a good 350 pages or 400 pages and getting in depth and things, that's when your mind starts to get, that's when your mind goes to the gym and works out. So that's where they got in, is by replacing logic and replacing reason and replacing thinking with emotion.
Yeah, I agree. Someone like Thomas Sowell, he wouldn't even be allowed to speak at, someone like him, they're banned from schools and banned from public speaking, really in general. No colleges allow anyone with his way of thinking and to speak anymore, because people get offended, and there again, it's all about feelings.
And you know what? People were never afraid of that before. You remember the American Nazi, what was his name? Rockwell, I think it was. Remember about him? They were inviting this guy. That guy spoke at universities as well.
Yeah.
And they didn't, and of course, most people wouldn't be agreeing with him.
Right.
But I mean, if here's a guy who was a full-blown Nazi,
Right.
and he was going to universities where people would listen to him, of course, and not agree with anything and condemn him and all this other. But nobody was afraid of ideas that were bad. Okay. They weren't afraid of these people. Nowadays, if somebody, how many people have become Nazis these days, huh? I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't even use that word anymore. It's just been used too much. It's but what we but what I want to just cover, because I want to make sure that we cover this, of how we get out of, first off, where we are now. If you want good information, you're going to have to go to what we call the alternative media. And
Substack.
A lot of it is, yes, sir?
Substack.
Sorry. Well, the thing is that you do have people on YouTube that do, they call them YouTubers. But there is no central quality source of information anymore like there used to be. If you were going to be putting together a news report that was 30 minutes long, if you had skill sets, you could pretty much explain everything going on. As a radio journalist, I learned you can explain any story in a minute or less if you know how to write it up, enough for the average person to understand. But these days, what we have to do is sift through information and become our own journalists, which I don't think is the best idea, because a lot of people aren't trained in it. But there are some people that are pretty good. One of my favorite stations on YouTube is Redacted. Have you ever seen them?
Yes.
Yeah, they're very good. And there's some others that there's good commentary. And they're, and some come or go. I have my own Substack channel, which I will plug.
Plug it in.
Okay, it's I'll let people know it's called the Aurelian Column. It's named after Marcus Aurelius, if you know who he was.
Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm an old buddy of the emperor. Stoicism helps in this day and age. It's called AurelianColumn.substack.com. Aurelian Column, AURELIAN Column, COLUMN.substack.com. I do audio, I do poetry, I do writing and photography. I do a lot. I have a website, MICCAMPEN.com, stands for microphone, camera, pen. Okay. One thing I want to touch on. First off, Rebecca, you said you had another question or so, or any other thoughts?
Well, it was just kind of pertaining to people in our society. So now if we're relying more on feelings and people are more prone to watch the news, to be entertained and to have their feelings justified, how do we even fix that in the media? Because it's more of like a societal and a cultural problem.
It's not going to be fixed by the media, but we can hit back in a way. Now, we had a break just now for the advertisements, right? And you talked about advertising is how we paid for things in the old days. That's still a major source of news. Now, one of the things that people do not do anymore is write paper letters. Even though every word processing software package you get has templates for writing letters. Let me tell you what really works. Now, is if you send paper letters to either members of Congress or especially to news organizations, that's when you can really start to make trouble in a good way. Let me give you an example. Let's say there's a guy who, a reporter, a very arrogant, and some of these these people that are in broadcast news now are just horrible.
Mhm.
And he does a real nasty job on somebody that cleans pools in some little town America or something, hypothetically. Just, goes out and does a hit piece on his pool cleaning business. Calling up isn't going to be listened to. Sending email. How many of us don't have a few thousand email messages in our inbox that we're never going to read? Imagine
Yeah.
some big organization. I mean, mine is probably up to the 6 digits by now,
Yeah.
And considering the average human lives about 23,000 days, I don't think I'm going to get to all of them. They're gonna remain unanswered for eternity.
Mhm.
But what you do is, let's say you see this hit piece on the pool cleaning guy.
Mhm.
You call up the station or go to their website and you get their address. And you would send a very well-written letter, 3 paragraphs long. I call it hook, line, and sinker, expressing your displeasure at this story. Now, a bit of disclaimer: do not ever write anything that could be viewed as threatening or arrogant or just saying "you piece of blah blah blah." No, be very very thoughtful,
Right.
intelligent, and put it in a letter that's properly written. It looks good. Again, there's plenty of templates out there for those people that have never gotten into paper letters. Learn how to fold it properly. You send this to the editor complaining about Mr. John Smith, the reporter, who I think did such a terrible job and did disservice to your blah, 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 blah. You do that, send it. That's going to go to the mailroom. Someone's going to have to open that letter, read it. They're going to go give it to the editor. It's going to take up some of their time. And then the editor is going to say, oh, wow. One person wrote a letter. There were probably a couple of thousand people that wanted to but didn't. Now, it gets better. Then he's going to call John Smith in his office. What's the story here? We don't need trouble. Okay. Imagine if he got 20 letters.
Yeah.
Now, it gets better. Now, again, don't do anything threatening or intimidating or saying, if you don't do this, I'm going to do this. No. Notice who is doing the advertising on that station. Okay. And usually they're going to be big companies. They might be local companies.
Yeah.
You basically write a letter to these people saying, I'd like to call your attention to a news story or a documentary or a report or a show where your company advertised its products and I found very disappointing. I think you should know about this. There's a way to do this. If it's a big company, maybe that makes, coffee or something, you might say, I've used your product for many years and I found it very disappointing. You don't threaten. You don't say, I'm going to lead a boycott. And then you do is enclose a BCC, a blind courtesy copy, a copy of the letter you sent the editor in with that letter. And that goes to the public affairs department of the ABC Coffee Company or something. They are going to really pay attention.
Wow.
Good to know.
Are not good. But
Good
again,
to know.
just to know, do not threaten. Do not try to extort or anything. Just be very matter of fact. Don't feel. Think. Said, I did not like this story. I've been using your product. You're not going to say, I'm going to stop using it. You said, I think you should be made aware of this. And then the advertiser, the company is going to call the advertising department of that station. And they're going to say, what's this about this story we're hearing about? You see how it goes? But again, it's not going to happen with email. It's not going to happen with a phone call. It's not going to happen with threats. And by the way, if you ever contact the White House switchboard or something, don't.
No threats.
Never.
Right.
No. You deserve what you get if you do.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to. But imagine, and if like 50 people did this to this one, or if it's a national story, what if it's a national hit piece on Trump or something?
Right.
You check to see who's doing the ad. That's their revenue. Now you're not. You're not. You're just making. You're reporting your dissatisfaction to the advertiser and to the people that produce this. You're doing so matter of factly. You're doing so respectfully.
Right.
That will have an effect if enough of us do that. Now.
Oh, definitely.
Okay. Yeah. But again, it has to be paper. And if you write it in crayon, you're not going to get anywhere. You got to learn how to produce nice letters.
Right.
Because when they, yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I just got to say we have Ron Wilcox on and coming up next. And so I'll let you finish up.
Okay.
So
The other thing too, and I want to bring attention to like the Gonzalo Lira story. The thing about the U.S. Senate, if you're going to be dealing with anything that really matters in Congress, you don't want to necessarily deal with the House of Representatives. You want to deal with your senators. And if you put a nice, well-written letter together to say Gonzalo Lira, who I'm sure you've heard about, saying, I'd like to see your office investigate this, the Senate has an awful lot of control over the different branches of the government. And that's it. But again, you do not threaten. You do not just get emotional. They want cold, calculated words of, I don't like this. I'm letting it known. And I've bothered to send a letter to you guys.
all right.
Good
And
to know.
with that is, we're running out of time. And with that, I just want to thank you for coming on. And we could definitely want to have you on. And listen, you've been a great inspiration, Mr. Thomas Caldwell, and we'll be right back with Ron Wilcox. We're going to go to a commercial break, and I'll give you a call back.
All right. Good being here, folks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on.
Yes.
This is the On Fire Show.
Flip Ammo is your trusted source of high-quality ammunition. We're passionate about shooting and offer a wide range of products from bulk ammo to hard-to-find rounds, all at competitive prices. You can choose from local pickup or fast daily shipping. We are the fastest shippers in the industry. We strategically developed our space next to the UPS shipping center and can ship most orders same day till 7 p.m. Our dedicated customer service team is always available for any questions or product recommendations. Experience the passion, expertise, and exceptional service that sets us apart. Flip Ammo, your trusted source for high-quality ammunition.
Nation's Gun Show at Dulles Expo in Chantilly, Virginia this weekend. 1,300 tables, over 2 miles of guns, knives, and accessories. Everything you need for the shooting, sports, and self-defense. Meet Crispy Avila at the EC Defense booth. Concealed handgun classes. The Nation's Gun Show at Dulles Expo. Friday 3 to 8, Saturday 9 to 5, Sunday 10 to 5. Advanced tickets, coupons, and more info at thenationsgunshow.com. That's thenationsgunshow.com.
All right, we're back. Welcome to the On Fire Show. This is the host, Darryl McKell Brooks, with my co-hosts, Rebecca Boyd, and Chris has some technical difficulties, and but he'll be on next week. And I am just so excited. That was Mr. Thomas Caldwell, and he is he was a public affairs guy, government agency, writer, news broadcaster. He's done it all in his past 30 years. Our guest today, is the great Ron Wilcox, Northern Virginia. You know, she likes that. Ron likes when I call him the great Ron Wilcox.
Well, you know, it's bad for my swelled head.
Okay. Well, listen, you've done a lot of great things, and especially in Virginia, and people know you. I was talking to this lady, and she knew you. I said, Ron Wilcox. I know that name. Yes, Ron Wilcox. Yes, in Virginia. I said, yeah, Ron Wilcox. So
she came to some training we had in the early days of the Northern Virginia Tea Party.
Yeah. So one of the things, I don't know if Rebecca, did you look at President Biden's speech on January 6th? And it was very disturbing. I'm in my hotel room, and I'm like, my God. This guy, I mean, he seemed like a tyrant.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he kind of called us a tyrant. Anybody who supports January 6th, if you support President Trump, you're MAGA supporter, you guys are tyrants, and you're going to destroy the country. We're going to take over. And to me, his speech was so difficult as an American.
And scary. And if you think about it, I mean, how many people that have been sitting in prison over January 6th, they haven't even been, they haven't been convicted of insurrection. Yeah. They're just sitting in jail. And that's the narrative that even our president keeps bringing up. Yep.
Trespassing.
Yep.
So Ron,
Yes,
what's
sir.
what's the difficulty I see in America is that people are not having real conversations with each other. And when it comes to politics, there's the anger, there's the hatred, and there's you seem like the anger coming, when you see President Biden's speech on January 6th, when you look at the politicians, especially Democratic politicians that are spewing out anger and that Trump is Hitler, the media, and Trump is going to destroy the country, and MAGA supporters are, we're insurrectionists, we're terrorists.
I think.
What is your view on all this?
Well, I think that anger is a central component of brainwashing.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways you control how people act is to stoke their anger.
Mm-hmm.
And, some of the greatest atrocities, all of the greatest atrocities in world history has been because people have generated hate from one group to another. And so this isn't a game. The left practices the pitting one against another in a way that is destructive to the entire fabric of society. You have that Bernie Sanders supporter that shut up the congressional baseball field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't talk about that.
No.
Yeah. So really, if they're trying to make people angry, you can just figure that they're doing something about brainwashing them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about righteous anger based in truth. I'm talking about lies to pit people one against another for not a good reason. So, here's the thing. Conservatives are famous for being a circular firing squad, though, right? And this year is the year we must all band together. Okay? This is the year of the coalition. We have to coalesce, find a way to get along with the faction we're not favorable to some point of view or whatever. It's not going to matter if our vote doesn't matter anymore. If the results aren't going to come out, if our true results won't be recorded, so we really have to pick up the pace this year. And instead of cashing in and tuning out, our people have to engage at the local level. You can't really organize nationally. Organizations that organize nationally organize state by state.
Mm-hmm.
They have state coordinators. That's the first thing they do when a grassroots organization wants to have an impact in a state or nationwide. Is they have a state director, and that state director starts developing talent in that state.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is the model that the founding fathers have given us, that the states are the actual source of authority of the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
And, we need to exercise that to the greatest extent we can. A negative example of that is when the Democrats are going around trying to take Trump off the ballot just because they want him off the ballot.
Right.
Which is a large percentage of Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, now I know they don't believe in democracy, much less the republic, because they want to take their political opponents, not only take them off the ballot, but lock them up in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And our president, the president of the United States, the chief opposition figurehead in the United States, was jailed for exercising what was central in the duties of the President of the United States. He takes an oath of office to see that the laws of the United States are faithfully executed, including election laws.
Right.
So if he was treading on anything related to election laws, he is foursquare in his authority. So he does have the immunity. Now they have conflated something. Jack Smith is saying while President Donald Trump committed crimes, what his defense is saying, as president, he did these acts. And because as president of not in his personal capacity, but in his capacity of president of the United States, he investigated and tried to make sure that the election laws were being faithfully executed. So he does, in fact, have that immunity from prosecution in the case in Georgia.
Right.
So, by the way, Daryl, you've kind of tilted the wrong way.
You gotta look at you like this.
No,
Daryl.
I'm so used to looking up to you. Now I have to look sideways to you. So, I think if it can break, it can be fixed, right?
Can anybody hear me? I think we have a connection
So,
problem.
anyway, as I said, I've had in my previous time on your channel, we were talking about the clouds and how they organize every month. And when I started organizing, the one core principle that I felt is if you don't have meetings, face-to-face, in-person meetings,
right,
you're not building your organization.
yeah,
You cannot build an organization absentee.
right. Oh, I think we're losing Daryl. So, Ronald, what would be your suggestion for people who do organize to make their main focus to try to make things right in their states, especially regarding elections and election laws?
Okay, well, I'm just going to sort of put my partisan hat on, no reflection of any organization that I work for. I would recommend that people make the phone calls for the Trump campaign to get him the nomination, to persuade people to vote for him in the primaries. And the reason I say this is even if you really like someone else better, you should still vote for Trump, because we know that Trump is going to be the nominee and we need him to be as strong as possible coming out of the primaries. Because but here's what I've said to Daryl. We all want Donald Trump to ride to our rescue. Is that correct? You want him to be in that office and be the president of the United States and take care of business. Well, I've got news for us all. We all have to ride to our own rescue.
Right.
It's up to us to ride to our own rescue, and then Donald Trump ride to Donald Trump's rescue.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we saw the poor outcome of people not doing their part with 2020 and COVID. I mean, all the shutdowns and the tyranny with that. I mean, everyone just kind of left Donald Trump high and dry, and things didn't go so well.
Yeah, I think that it's very important for us to tangibly show support for the president of the United States. I mean, for Donald Trump, former president of the United States, and hopefully future president.
Yeah.
So in Virginia, it's really important that people get out to vote in the primary starting on January 19th. So I didn't really mean to be quite so partisan, but what I think people need to do, to answer your question, is really engage at multiple levels at once, at the local level. Get involved with the campaign of your choice, of your candidates, your congressional candidates that are running. And you need to, at the same time, try to influence public policy of your state elected officials.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The future congressman used to be a school board member. So those
Right.
races all the way up and down the ballot should be, paramount that we win. It's not, the amount of influence you can have is the lower in the pecking order,
Mm-hmm.
the more influence you can have. The school board, you can have a lot of influence on that school board member. You can have a lot of influence on your county council or your supervisor, or whatever they call it, the chairman of the board of supervisors or the mayor.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then at the state level, you got to know the names and phone numbers of all the people that represent you, from the school board to the dog catcher to the city council to the mayor to the House of Representatives in the state house and the state senate in your state, depending on your state. And so it's really, really important to engage with those officials and let them know where you stand.
Yeah.
Don't let them think you're some rhino.
Yeah.
And
It's been
I will
really
tell you,
scary to me that the number of people that I've spoken to have no idea who their representatives are or their senator. Like, they just pay no attention to local politics or even their school board for that matter, which is a shame.
to me, you should have a sheet of paper and a notebook, and build that notebook so that you have the phone number and email address, personal email address, and the phone number and email address of their chief of staff of every elected official up and down the line that represents you. And you have this little book, and when you have a concern about the schools, you call the school, you can send an email off to the school board member.
Yeah.
Why aren't people contacting their representatives? They don't know who they are. They don't know who they are.
Sadly true.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll tell you, that is a great deal of work. And if you just do that, that will lead you in a path where you're actually being effective in moving public policy when it comes up, because you'll be ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
You won't go, what do I do? Well, I've got this list of people I can call and email.
Right. That was my lesson during COVID with all the shutdowns. I was searching out, who do I contact, because this is really messed up. So,
Yeah, and I would recommend that people get engaged with one of the public policy organizations that do grassroots. Heritage Action, for one. Freedom Works has a team. And there's a number of other organizations that do citizen action, local, that actually will help you do your lobbying. Americans for Prosperity for us years ago said that anytime we wanted to go down to the General Assembly during the session in Virginia, they would pick us up in a van. They would feed us breakfast at McDonald's. They would take us to the General Assembly and walk around with us and help us lobby our legislators. As long as it was one of their issues that they were concerned about, there wasn't any requirement. Then they pay for your lunch, and then they take you home. Okay, so leverage. Now, organizations are a little bit tight right now because people have been so hurt that they're not donating to national organizations as much. But still, if you leverage those national organizations, again, Freedom Works is among the best, and Heritage Action are two terrific organizations that foster the grassroots and foster your ability to communicate with your legislators at an effective level.
Okay.
And with that, Ron, I just want to say thank you for coming on. Time is up soon, so we just want to listen. You'll be back on. You're welcome to come on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
right,
thank you.
Thank you. You're a wealth of knowledge. Thank you. Be safe.
For sure.
All right. We got to go into a station break right quick. We're going to go into our commercials. And after that, we can say goodbye. We'll be right back. This is On Fire Show with Daryl Brooks and Rebecca Boyd.
To the weekly On Fire Show with your hosts, Dal Brooks, and two co-hosts, Rebecca Boyd and Chris Cloud. The conservative talk host is compelling, unique, and multifaceted. Brooks will talk about the day's events with passion, humor, insight, and always a little sarcasm. Flip Ammo is your trusted source of high-quality ammunition. We're passionate about shooting and offer a wide range of products from bulk ammo to hard-to-find rounds, all at competitive prices. You can choose from local pickup or fast daily shipping. We are the fastest shippers in the industry. We strategically developed our space next to the UPS shipping center and can ship most orders same day till 7 p.m. Our dedicated customer service team is always available for any questions or product recommendations. Experience the passion, expertise, and exceptional service that sets us apart. Flip Ammo, your trusted source for high-quality ammunition.
All right, we're back. Rebecca, we had a great show today.
Yeah,
Very
definitely.
informative.
Knowledge is power. We had very informative guests on. So,
Mhm.
once we're armed with information and the problems that we need to fix, we could take the steps that we need to help fix all the problems in this country.
Oh, no, I wish Chris would have been on the show.
Yeah,
And,
Miss
yeah,
Chris.
yeah, definitely. He brings a lot of that energy, that raw energy. And
Yeah, he
so,
does.
yeah, this has been a great show. Martin Luther King Day is coming up.
Hmm.
And, one of the things I like to talk about is how he lived his life and how he's been a great inspiration to millions of people around the world. And, one of his famous quotes is, "True forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne, yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind the dim unknown stands God, within the
Oh,
shadows keeping watch above his own." And with that, listen, we'll be back next week. And this is the On Fire Show. Thank you for Rebecca. Oh,
thank
also
you.
holding it down. All right. This is the On Fire Show with the host, Don McKell Brooks and Rebecca Boyd and Chris Cloud. We'll be back next week. God bless.
Have a wonderful night, everyone.
Peace.